Hello, one and all, and he's made it just in time. Joe Sansom, we are live on deadline day. Can you hear me?
Of course, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. All right, Joe, we have plenty to discuss. Of course, we woke up this morning not expecting anything, but it looks like it's going to be the one signing in Josh Madger.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird day. I woke up expecting absolutely nothing, thinking maybe a few outgoings. Tony Khan, we're gonna do it anyway. I mean,
It's taken 30 seconds for you to say that.
I got a bit flustered. I thought we were signing Josh King, then I had dinner, now we're not. But Josh Madger is a signing that excites me partially because I feel like with an option at the end of it, and I presume that it is still going to go through and everything, obviously touch wood, that he's someone that could stay in the Championship with us. Josh King, the problem with that deal would have been that he would have definitely left if we did go down, which, to be honest, sadly, since our last, a lot more likely. So I'm just happy that we've got something out of this day, another forward option, because you can tell that our current options aren't really cutting it. And Josh King would have been a great second signing, but Josh Madger, I'm very happy. I'm guessing you are as well.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we were talking on the video last week, and I mentioned. I know. I'm sorry, but the comments are really funny. I'm going to put some on screen in a minute once we get cracking. But where am I starting? I said Josh Madger last week
Yes.
that West Ham were interested, but suddenly that all went away, and now he's on his way to Fulham. It looks as though that is the deal that's going to go ahead. If you haven't been reading up on the news, we'll give you the latest. Josh Madger on his way to sign for Fulham on loan till the end of the season, with an option to buy for €10 million at the end of the season, which equates to about £8 million. And Josh King looked like he was odds on for Fulham, but it was basically if Everton came in with a late bid, we would assume that he would go to Everton, and that has happened. In terms of outgoings, Seri has gone to Bordeaux. Abubakar Kamara looks like he's going to Dijon Mustard, not Middlesbrough. So my tweet today is completely null and void. And who else is Maxime Lemarchand to FCA Twente, but I'm not sure if that's going to go through. Joe, what are your thoughts on? I mean, we have to get into what happened on Saturday as well, I suppose, because when we next speak on Thursday will be after the Leicester game. Is Josh Madger enough to keep us up, or to give us a fighting chance?
I mean, on his own, I would have to say no. I'm still optimistic this can be a good signing for us. I don't think anyone we signed today would suddenly make staying up, because I think that a lot of the problems we're having is with chance creation, and I don't think suddenly a new striker is going to completely solve all those problems. I mean, I'm optimistic that we can be a better side with another attacking option, but I feel like he should make us a better team, and I'd like to see him involved on Wednesday if he's allowed to play in that. I feel that he's a good player. I mean, we've all seen him in the Netflix documentary, but even aside from that, when he first went to Bordeaux, he did okay. He's maybe not quite had the impact there that he wanted. I know that he's been on the bench past few weeks, not really been too involved. I think he scored maybe 2 goals this season, which obviously doesn't sound prolific, but if you take into account Josh King scored no goals this season, so if you could look at it that way. The way that I thought the day was going to go is we were just going to see a bit of a thinning of the squad with a few going out, and we might still see that because we've got too many players to fit the 25-man squad. You would imagine Onama's going to come back in, and you sort of think, well, who's going to go out then? So we know that Seri now out of the question, can't be involved. Johansson, Kamara looks like will no longer be an option, so that literally makes way for a new attacking option. And it's one of these things you never know with these January transfers. I don't know what's going on. You never know with these January transfers what could happen. We saw Mitrovic a few years ago. At that point, wasn't on fire, and we sort of took a chance on him. And look what happened. And I would love the same thing to happen with Josh Madger, because He's clearly got a lot of talent. He's got a bit of a history at Fulham. Obviously, he used to play for us and then scored that goal against us on that freezing cold day in Sunderland. So I hope that he can have an instant impact and at least give us something else going forward that we really need.
Yeah, I mean, Luke with the comment here, Madja is crap. I mean, you never know until you really see him in action for Fulham. I'm going to put up a different comment now. So yeah, Josh Madja playing off Mitrovic. It's an option. Wow, there's 205 people in the stream. Hello to everyone watching. The thing with Josh Madja is we saw him on that documentary, Sunderland Till I Die. If you haven't seen it, his agent really did have a say in his move, and he was a little bit, I'm not sure about his agent. But Josh is a local lad. He's from this area of London. And he wanted a crack at the Premier League. He's got 6 months now to keep us in, to try and prove himself, and to try and earn a permanent stay. I think it's a good opportunity for him. Someone who's young and hungry, and hopefully can buy into the system. For Josh King, like you said, he hasn't scored at all this season. He's got a bit of attitude problems. So am I unhappy with not signing Josh King? No. I mean, I'm not unhappy. I'm not happy that we've left it late, and we'll come on to that, Joe. Lots of criticism after the draw to West Brom. Lots of Tony Khan out everywhere. Look, I think it's time for him to step aside. Maybe when the season's over. I'm not sure what you think, but it's just been a bit of a circus. You know, if you're focusing on the wrestling, not consistently tweeting about Fulham when we win or we lose. I mean, I bet if we'd have beat West Brom, we would have seen Tony Khan with the thanks for all the support, etc., etc. But I think sorry, I've just seen a comment that's made me laugh. I think that the performance on Saturday was down to the players, and the result was down to the players. It was a real mess in the second half, Joe, and we'll touch on that now. What are your opinions on the whole Khan situation?
Well, for me, firstly, just on Saturday's game, we've got a better team than West Brom. In my opinion, all over the pitch. Maybe the one player that I think of theirs that would get into our team is Pereira, who I think is a bit of a little shit, but a very good player. And I feel that on Saturday, the players let us down because the first half, we battered them. And unlike this comment, which normally, yes, we do create limited chances, for the first time in a long time, we created so many clear-cut chances and just couldn't find that second goal. The same 11 players have come onto the field in the second half. West Brom made one change, which is the big guy up front that did well. But let's face it, his main attribute is that he's big and strong, and we just couldn't deal with that for some reason. And I think the players let us down. The intensity wasn't there. I don't think Saturday's defeat is anything to do with Tony Khan because our team is better than West Brom's. In terms of the season as a whole, I think Tony Khan is very responsible for a lot of our sort of the underperforming nature of our team, with the fact that for a start, you've got the late defensive signings, you've got the late attacking signing now, even though I'm very happy that Madge is coming in. Why couldn't this deal have been done earlier? Josh King, I understand if we're trying for that. He was always going to go somewhere on deadline day or not at all. Madja, he's been there the whole time. He's not been playing the whole time. It's a loan deal. And it's just like, why couldn't we have done this earlier? And that's what I think Tony Khan's responsible for, is the fact that we've basically thrown away 4 games at the start of the season. We've thrown away 2 huge games against our relegation rivals. And whilst he's not solely to blame for us not picking up the points we needed in those games, he hasn't helped, because before that against Chelsea, even just going further back into the season, we've needed a striker or an attacking option for a long time. And he didn't provide it in time. And now we're 7 points adrift, 8 if you include goal difference. And whilst we've still got half the season left, which is what I'm clinging on to, I'm clutching at any straws, absolutely any straws at the moment. It's down to him.
It's unbelievable. The amount of games I can just name and go, we should have had more points in this game and that game. I'm going to drive myself crazy. I thought the West Brom game was ridiculous, to be fair. Why we didn't put them away in the first half. The final 5 10 minutes of the first half, we took our foot off the gas when they were really for the taking. We were getting in behind their defence so much. I'm amazed we didn't score more. Bobby Reid came really, really close with he hit the post. I'm still really frustrated about it. It was a great goal to equalise. Ivan Cavalier, a great ball from Harrison Reed. But yeah, the game on Tuesday with Brighton, or was it Wednesday against Brighton? The game today, not today, Saturday against West Brom. It just there should be more points there for Fulham, and we're now the Brighton result against Spurs is a nightmare. And Newcastle beating Everton, a nightmare. And now that game in hand against Burnley, we have to win to close the gap to 4, even though it'll be played at a different time. We basically have to get something out of Leicester and West Ham. Joe, the news today, I know we haven't talked much about transfers because we already know what's going to happen and what probably will be concluded tonight. But Fofana apparently is out. Vardy is out. Ndidi is out. That's 3 very, very key players for Leicester. We saw them struggle at the weekend against Leeds without that goal-scoring striker in Jamie Vardy. And I suppose, we're going to be speaking now before the game on Wednesday. Do you feel like we have a chance against Leicester?
Well, I think we do. I think we played, Vardy aside, a stronger Leicester team earlier in the season. In terms of Castagne's out as well. Pereira's coming in for him. He's very good fullback, but Castagne's been their first choice recently. I think it's a game now that we have to look at and we have to win. I think previously, maybe if we'd got a win against West Brom or something like that, you asked me about this game, I'm thinking I'd probably take a point, but now I'm thinking this is a game we have to get maximum points out of. We've thrown away too many chances. You think back to that Southampton game, a much weakened team. We didn't go for the 3 points. We've got to do the polar opposite of that, not sit back for the draw in this one and actually go for the win. I think it's a good chance because you've also got to factor into the fact that Burnley and Brighton, who are 2 of the teams above us, obviously have got 2 of the hardest games in City and Liverpool. And it's one of these things. Could we close that gap to 4 instantly? You never know. It could grow to 10. Like, it's all ifs and buts. But I think it's a game that we have to look at and win now. Same with West Ham. We've just made this. This is what frustrates me. We've made the job so much harder for ourselves. If we'd got that win against West Brom, it wouldn't have been a great weekend due to other results, but we'd at least have kept it sort of,
alive. Yeah, we would have cut out West Brom as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'd have been 5 points ahead of West Brom, I think, with a better goal difference. That's 6. We're basically one of the only teams left in the equation. This side, I do agree with playing Anguissa in the cup. I think it was needless. He's looked, he's not looked sharp. Interested to see if he's still. I mean, I imagine he will. I'd be very surprised if he didn't, but does continue to keep his place now that his performances have dropped slightly.
Oh, man, since he's come back from COVID, I think that he just hasn't been the same. And whether that's long-term issues that you do see with people and athletes, you just never know. Joe, I surprisingly upbeat yesterday after the on the group chat, but I think the dust has now settled. I know today's been a bit of a distraction because it's deadline day, but the reality is we're now 7 points off.
Yeah,
and I was on full-time live after the game. I was on full-time after the game, and I said that Sammy said that we're in a great escape situation, and I completely disagreed with him. And I said, look, we're only 4 points off. If Brighton lose, then we're only 4 points off. Brighton have won, and now suddenly I'm like, okay, it's not quite a great escape because we have a game in hand, but it's getting towards that sort of territory. I'm now really worried, and I said this on Saturday. You can praise the team and the manager as much as we have this season, as much as you like, but we don't have the results or the points to back it up. Like I've said every single week, and now we're really concerned. And this signing in Josh Maja is almost like planning for the future. If we could sign one a permanent for 10 million, he'd be a good striker to have in the Championship. And I made this point on Saturday. I said, do you remember in 18-19, we, and myself included, were all very excited to get back to the Championship because we were basically relegated from Christmas onwards, basically. I feel the polar opposite. I think getting relegated, obviously, from a normal fan's perspective, I just completely had lost my head a couple of years ago and I was just speaking out my mind. I'd be so disappointed if we got relegated, not because of, well, just because I had more belief in this team and that there was a better feel around the club. I hope you agree.
Completely agree. Love this team as players. You imagine that players like Anderson, Lookman, Areola won't extend their stays if we go down. You imagine that. Okay, that's it. Staying on then, I guess.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Some of these comments have been funny, to say the least. But
also, on Josh Madger's agent, I read earlier, and I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but someone was saying that he's got the same agent as Seri and Ola Aina, which is quite interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so maybe it's an agent that we like to do business with. Yeah, it's one of these things. I like this team a lot, and I've said it all season on SW6 Essential that I felt that if we stay up, we've got quite a good starting point to really have quite a solid mid-table Premier League team. I think Areola is a fantastic goalkeeper. In Anderson and Lookman, we've got Premier League quality players that aren't just Championship players doing a job. We've got players that could play at teams that are much higher up the league, in my opinion. And I feel that if you get relegated, it's back to square one. We go back to games. I know you managed to go to the Liverpool game, which is obviously fantastic, but for people like me that didn't, last game that I went to was in the Championship. Next game I go to will be in the Championship, and it'll be like the Premier League never happened. We'll have the same players again, and obviously we'll have, hopefully, players like Robinson and Tete and Tosin that stay with us in the Championship. But other than that, with all due respect to these players, I don't want to see Odoi playing for Fulham Football Club in the Championship again. I don't want to see Tim Ream and Hector at the base of our defence. I feel like
it's time to move on from that era, I think.
I feel like it's Groundhog Day. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we're in an endless cycle where we're swapping with Norwich every year.
Joe's film, you don't have to keep spamming that in the chat. We've seen the comment. Which ex-Fulham player would you take back? I mean, Cauley Woodrow has been put in the chat here. He's been banging them in at Barnsley. But it depends where you are. I mean, if we're Premier League level, then who would I take back? Used to be at Fulham. Well, I can't think right now.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, you don't have to keep spamming in the chat. Thanks. I
think I know there was a rumour that we went for him, but Moussa Dembele, in terms of the striker, would have been fantastic.
Are we talking players who are in their prime, or are we talking players who are still like?
I think we've got to talk about right now.
Well, Moussa Dembele, who's at Atletico Madrid, as Jack says here.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you'd take him, but he's probably a better goal scorer than we have right now. Because what we need is players to put it in the back of the net. So I wouldn't be like, I'd take back a defender or a midfielder. It'd have to be a striker, and I think Moussa Dembele, as a former,
whoever that Jack Stroudley guy is, he's talking a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm not too sure who he is, but he's making a lot of sense there. Saha fits the current bill. Yeah, Luis Saha was in. If we were to go players who are retired, is pretty good. Joe, let's talk a little bit about a bit more about that West Brom game, because it really is an annoyance. The 2 goals for West Brom were deflections, albeit. Yeah. But the second one particularly annoys me, as Andre Frank Zambo-Anguissa, who I absolutely adore, didn't track his man, didn't track Pereira. And why on earth was Pereira cupping his ears at the crowd as if there was 25,000 people in that stadium? Maybe it was to Michael Hector after he pulled his hair and went down last season in the 0-0 game.
Yeah, I hope he recovers from that, by the way. I think he's still struggling quite a few months on. He hasn't looked the same since, honestly. Both goals annoyed me. Second goal annoyed me much more because I felt it was so needless. We had the ball sort of in the left wing position, lost it really scrappily, and there was about 4 or 5 of our players around the ball. None of them got anywhere near it. Chris Smalling, I like the shout a lot, but I feel that our current centre-backs are doing a very good job. That's the only reason I didn't say a defender.
And the game on against West Brom, the second half performance was the first time where I was like, "What is this defense doing?" I mean, but even then, it's just frustrating.
Even then, I don't think that they did too much wrong in terms of like horrendous mistakes or anything. I think it was as a team, we just lost. I cannot explain what happened in that second half because we all knew that a sort of comeback from West Brom was coming in terms of a reaction. But to go out in the second half, basically have the kick off, give their striker a few touches to get on the ball. It was just bizarre. It was just bizarre the way that we allowed them to come back into the game. West Brom didn't earn their way back into the game, as Dion Dublin would say, the most clueless spanner in football, other than Garth Crooks, by the way. Dion Dublin. I mean, it was just an unbelievable commentary. It was unbelievable. He went on about Mitrovic for the whole game. I think someone wrote an article about this today, and then said, "Oh, Ruben Loftus-Cheek was my man of the match." Unbelievable.
At 2-1 down, I was thinking this is genuinely one of the worst things that's happened in all my time supporting Fulham. No, I'm being serious. Just by the way, the first half went. We were in cruise control. I was just having a laugh with my brothers watching the game. Not like arrogant, but I feel like the players were a little bit arrogant towards the end of that first half. And I just think that we lacked any sort of authority to go on it and make that game ours. And this is what frustrates me the most about the Saturday game. West Brom didn't do anything special in changing the game. They just pushed up and put a striker on, put us under a little bit of pressure. It's not like we made countless errors and gave them the ball and just messed around. We just let West Brom come onto us and we crumbled under the pressure. And it took basically a worldie of a ball from Harrison Reed to get us out of trouble, to get a point when we were in control at 1-1, and it should have been 2 or 3 before half time. It fumes me, honestly. And, you talk about the character and the bottle that we need to stay up. That performance, that second half performance, just gave me no hope that we could do that. And then you come out in the press conference and you say, "Well, we'll fight harder and we'll go again. We're playing for each other." Like, I believe it, and I want to believe it. But we go against the Leicester team who we've already beaten this season. Gives me slight confidence, especially with their absentees. But Joe, I've gone off on a bit of a rant there. Maybe we should get back to some transfers. Josh Maja is joining. If you've just joined us, Josh Maja looks like the only signing that's going to come in for Fulham. I wish we were talking about it a little bit more, like Josh King, and the thumbnail was images that precede unfortunate events, because by the time I'd made the thumbnail and got it all ready, that he was off to Everton. But he doesn't get in that Everton team. Let's talk a bit about Josh King and what he could do at Everton. He doesn't really get into the first team, does he? I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is banging in goals. Richarlison is doing bits. But of course, on that Sunday night when we play Everton, that Josh King is going to come on and bag a brace, do a bit of a...
There is absolutely no way that he is not bagging on Valentine's Day against us. There is no way. And I think that he doesn't get in that team. And that's what frustrates me a bit, is that I think that he starts for us either at centre forward or sort of wide on the front three. And he doesn't start for them. And I know that he's lived up north before, and I think that's part of the reason why he was so keen for Everton to put a bid in, because when he was at Blackburn, I think his house was not too far from Liverpool, if I read it correctly. I'm not sure if that's rubbish or not. So I think he was keen to sort of go back home from where he was a few years ago. And it just frustrates me because it sounded like we had no interest, suddenly went for it, and then Everton just pipped us to the post. And that's what frustrates me.
So it was like Everton always held the cards. Say that again, sorry.
I just don't think he plays for them, and that's what frustrates me.
Yeah, that is frustrating. Josh King should be looking at this and going, where am I going to get first-team football in the Premier League? And it's not going to be at Everton. But look, a guy who hasn't scored in the Championship this season yet against a Bournemouth team who are doing not amazingly, but quite well. I mean, I would have taken Dan Juma over Josh King any day. And the other player that we were talking about this month was Adam Armstrong, but there was never going to be anything happening with him, even though he did score again at the weekend. I just saw an interesting comment. Just going to try and get it up. Regarding relegation, I think it's safe to say we won't bounce back right away. I mean, you never know. Last season I didn't think we'd bounce back, but we did. Much harder to do now with clubs like Stoke, etc., in the mix, and most of our players will all leave. Okay, let's talk about this then. I mean, Tosin Adarabioyo, Watford have just scored, by the way. They put Watford 1-0 up against Queen's Park Rangers. Troy Deeney from the penalty spot. Tosin Adarabioyo just signed in this summer, but he's got interest from the likes of Juventus this month. If we were to go down, would you see him staying? The heartbreak of going down is losing the likes of Lookman, Anderson, Areola, and all the other loan players that have come in. Maybe not Loftus-Cheek, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we could keep Tosin. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think there is a very strong possibility we could, seeing as we signed him so recently. He's on a big contract. I think it would take quite a big bid to get him out unless he was really itching to leave. And the one thing I disagree with this comment is that I don't think it's certain that we would not bounce back straight away. I think we thought it was going to be really difficult last time, and it was. But I feel that we're coming down this time with a stronger core of a team. We already have Harrison Reed, we have Rodak, we have Robinson, Tete, we've got Kongolo if he's ever back from injury, we've got Onoma. I feel like we've got a much better starting point than we did. Obviously, sadly, players will go.
Joe, I've just been tagged in a tweet from Sky. Yes. Bournemouth have verbally agreed a deal with both Everton and Fulham for striker Joshua King. The 29-year-old who is out of contract in the summer has been linked with a host of clubs. Both deals are structured differently, hence the complications at this late stage. So
basically, I thought I was going to go to bed happy days, and they reeled me back in.
They have reeled us back in. I've just been tagged because Eon as well. Eon Dillon has just said it as well. Both verbally agreed a deal. I hope I've said your name correctly there, actually. With both Fulham and so basically it's down to Josh. It's down to Josh King. Does he want to play off the bench for Everton, who are doing very well under a manager like Carlo Ancelotti, who's been there and done it in the Champions League and everywhere in the Premier League, or come to Scott Parker's Fulham, who really do need someone. I'm not going to be a hypocrite because I did say he hasn't scored this season, but Josh King, I think, would make a little bit of a difference to our team, better than Cavallero, I think. And so now it's down to Josh. So what do you think of that?
Well, at the end of the day, I feel like Josh King would not be someone that I'd be lying in bed at night thinking, oh, I am gutted that he is signed. At the same time, I think he would improve our team a lot. And he's someone that has done it in the Premier League. He's someone that I think would score goals for us. Maja is one of these ones where I think that he's an interesting player and I'm excited to sign him, but I don't think he guarantees Premier League goals purely because we haven't seen him in the Premier League before.
It could be a surprise package. You never know.
Exactly. But it's a bit of a risk, whereas I think that Josh King, he hasn't done it in the Championship so far this season. Maybe hasn't played as much as he'd normally want. Hasn't been starting every game until recently. I feel like Josh King could offer us something. I feel that with him, with Mitrovic, with Lookman, we've got players that are Premier League quality. And even though I think that Maja could be, he's not definitely, is what I'd say.
Give some competition for Mitrovic, someone has just said. Yeah, completely. I think two completely forwards in would be great if one was to go out. Abu Kamara looks like he's going to France. I just read somewhere that the deal for Maxime Lemarchand to Antwerp is looking positive. So that's another out. Harvey obviously will not be happy. If you know, you know. Joe, what was I going to say? It's down to Josh King now, Everton or Fulham, and I think that is now an interesting one.
Well, I mean, it all sort of hints towards Everton, but I guess it's: do you want guaranteed game time and the risk of relegation, or do you want not necessarily guaranteed game time, but you're at a Premier League club that is fighting for Europe, that is fighting for bigger and better things, and could probably offer more money, I'd be tempted to say, although that's unsure.
Oh, yeah, it's a good shout. What's just happened now is that Bournemouth have lined up a signing to replace Josh King if he leaves, and that is Shane Long from Southampton. which would be an interesting signing for Bournemouth. I was going to check. That was what I was going to do. I was going to check the Sky Bet odds for Josh King, which has changed throughout the day. It started with us as favourites, then Everton. Let's have a look, shall we? Joe, I'm still really annoyed about Saturday, by the way. It's just
me too, mate.
I just thought I'd keep the conversation flowing once.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, I am excited for Wednesday, despite it, but I'm still kicking myself over what happened on Wednesday.
I mean, that Ruben Loftus-Cheek chance as well, yeah.
Yeah, don't go. So, I mean, for me, the Bobby Reid one was just, that is the one that is living in my skull, because he did everything right, couple of inches, and
you can't have a go at him for that. I mean, it was just
no, of course not. It was just so frustrating. It was so close.
Josh King to move to Everton at 1.2, and Fulham at 4.3, which puts us at a severe disadvantage. But it's a level playing field as it stands. It's basically who can offer the better contract and the better deal.
Yeah,
we'll have to see. So that is a live one that's basically going to go right down to the wire, which makes this sort of more exciting. I remember last deadline day we had, what was it, Tosin, Anderson, Baumgartel, and Loftus-Cheek.
Yeah.
The actual saga. Let's see what everyone else is saying. Luke says he'll 100% go to Everton. He's all about being the big man. I didn't know you knew him personally. Here we go. Here's the odds. King 1 to 5 to sign for Everton.
There we go. Now I can read it. What's about the decimals?
Yeah, I'm all about decimals, and yeah, I've just got a word from a friend of mine saying to stop with the decimals. But yeah,
decimals.
Do you know why I use decimals? Because it's so easy. It's so much easier to understand. Because I'm not very good at maths. Us at 4.33 to sign Josh King means if you put £1 on, you win £4.33. I mean, whereas I don't get all this. What does that even mean? 10 over 3 doesn't make sense. But never been a fan of decimals, says Darren. But thanks very much for putting the odds in. No one needs a maths lesson. Jack, get on with the rumours. Yeah, we're just going to ban that guy for being toxic, I think. Jack Stroudley.
Who is that guy? Honestly, I don't know. Anyway.
King seems like he cares about the money more than. It's interesting how people are claiming that they know Josh King personally. That's quite interesting. I know I'm being tongue in cheek, but it is. I
have got to say there is one thing that does really.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Josh King. One thing does really worry me about Josh King, and that is that if we did go down, which seems right now, sadly, more likely than not, are we in the same situation that Bournemouth are in now? A few months down the line, where he wants to go. I just don't know. I feel like it might be. I'm a bit nervous that even if we give him, I think it was like a 3.5-year deal that was being rumoured.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Yeah.
If we were to go down, is he not just going to try and leave again? I know there'd be like a relegation clause or something, but feels a little bit like, would his heart completely be in it? That being said, I would take him because I think he's Premier League quality. Is that a bad decision? I don't know.
Well, he's got 6 months left on his contract at Bournemouth. If he left in the summer, he'd go on a free. Bournemouth want money for him, obviously, because Bournemouth any club would want money for a player. So I think he will move tonight. It's just whether it will be Fulham or it'll be Everton. Can we say that if Everton get him, then Fulham then they'll let us win that game when we play them at Goodison Park? Because 1, we need a win.
I think that's only fair. Yeah. And
2, we have to win at Goodison Park because the last time, do you remember when we went last time? It was a terrible 3-0 defeat. Session hit the bar. Yeah. Vieto missed a really good chance. They missed the penalty. That was an upsetting day. One of many in that season.
But at least you got to interview my nan, which was quite good.
That was probably the highlight of the day. Interview of your nan. Bust up with Harvey on the fan cams when he said that he hopes Aubameyang scores a hat-trick against us, so he gets in because it's in his fantasy team. I completely lost my head. Although in hindsight, I was being a job's worth. Do we think Everton will share King with? Do you think? I didn't actually mean to click on that comment, but it's very funny. If you know, then you do know. Would you rather sign Messi, Ronaldo, or Jordan Hugill? Well, Jordan Hugo's bagging them in recently for Norwich, so I'd probably go with him. He probably knows the league a little bit more than Messi, and obviously Ronaldo is way past his prime and looking at retirement.
Got to say, after seeing Messi's contract being leaked, I think it's Hugo all the way. And by the way, when he was at Preston, he was an absolute bagsman. I thought he was so dangerous every time we played against him.
If Hugo was to ever sign for us, he'd go, "Hi, Fulham fans! Can't wait to walk out to all the clappers." Come on, you whites!
Oh my
God. I went to school with Josh King. I'm 18, but he's 29. But anyway, he likes chicken with ketchup. Oh, and also he snapped me earlier saying he's coming to Fulham up the Whites. Look, these rumours and sources, quite literally, are very interesting on Deadline Day. It's got to that stage where we're past the serious chat and we're now interacting with the.
I'm delirious. My head has been spinning since the West Brom game, and it's just not stopped.
My head's been spinning since Wolves away when we put in quite a good game performance, but we didn't get a point out of it. Let's get back to some serious stuff. Let's talk about the Leicester game a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
What did we talked about the injuries, didn't we, earlier? Yeah. Do you think that we can possibly get something out of that game now? I think that our last couple of home performances have been okay. The Man United game, what was our last home game before that? Was it just Man United and Chelsea? Yeah. I thought we played quite well at times. And obviously Robinson's back now as well, down that left-hand side, who's always a threat.
Yeah, I think we can definitely cause some problems like we did in the away game. I think it might have to be a similar game plan when we're sort of sitting back and hitting them on the break. It really seemed to work against them at the King Power. I think we can get something. I do. I think we can get something, especially with their injuries. I feel a lot more confident now. But it's a game that we really do have to get something from. We can't be looking at these games anymore. I was guilty of it. You were guilty of it, of sort of thinking that was a plucky defeat or we were unlucky there. We have to get results now.
Mm-hmm. We have to beat West Ham and we have to beat Leicester. Like, I know these are difficult games because they're good teams, but if you want to stay up this season, you have to get wins, and whether that being wins against teams that you should beat or in and around you, or surprise wins like we did against Leicester. Now we've basically got no choice. The only wins that I feel as though we can definitely get in terms of teams around us are Burnley and Sheffield United and Newcastle, because we've still got to play. Yeah, that's who we've still got to play. So we've got to go to the likes of Southampton. We've got to go to Crystal Palace. We've got to go and host Leeds and Wolves, and these are games that we now need to win. And something to be said about Wolves. Wolves have completely fallen off. William Jose came in. He made his debut against Crystal Palace. It was a little bit quiet. Eze's goal was fantastic. I watched the highlights earlier today. But are Wolves in trouble then, do you think?
I mean, they're not out of trouble. I would be very surprised if Wolves went down, even though they're in quite poor form. I think they have got too much quality in their team, especially when Jimenez comes back. But I'm looking at that Wolves game at home. I'm looking at Leeds at home. There's a few games left where, on paper, I think they look harder than they actually are. Wolves in particular, I think, other than us, they're on the longest run in the Premier League without a win, which is dating back quite some time now. Yeah, they got beaten by West Brom. They looked pretty poor in the game. I'm trying to remember who it was against in the FA Cup. It's a non-league team that I've just gone off the top of my head. And they looked poor again against Palace, who have also been looking poor. So it's one of these where they're dropping like a stone, but we haven't made them pay for it, and the gap remains very large.
If we'd have made the ground up, we'd be talking about teams above us and who we can drag into it. But now it's about us getting ourselves out of it, which is so frustrating. Hugo has just made my heart sink a little bit. Oh no, some tier 1 journalist with 1.2 million followers confirmed King has chosen Everton over Fulham. If you could tag me in that tweet on Twitter at Chikeli FFC, then I can just see that, because I haven't seen that.
I believe it's Di Marzio.
Is it Di Marzio? Oh, that's frustrating. That is frustrating.
Although that is the only source at the moment saying that it's done. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think it's unlikely that he joins us.
Jack Rosser has just said, as reported, Fulham's offer for King has now been accepted, as is Everton's decision now with King, who has ambitions of a move to a Champions League club for some time. Now, I don't see us getting Champions League football by the end of the season. Everton, it was Damasio. That's frustrating then, because that's probably that then. Yeah, I suppose. But Joe, we're 7 points off with a game in hand against Burnley. I feel a little bit sad. I think we'll all feel a bit sad. And it would have been nice today to get a big transfer. I know Josh Maja is coming in just to lift the spirits a bit. And that's no disrespect to Josh Maja. It's just I haven't seen him play in the Premier League. He's never played in the Premier League. And this is where I go a little bit quiet and just
well, look, I mean, I think after that Spurs game, I would say that is the highest spirits I've seen sort of the Fulham world.
Yeah, that was good. That was very good. I
mean, we all sort of thought we'll stay up from here, and since then it's gone a bit wrong. And we're not out of it, but we've basically got to become a mid-table team for this second half of the season and get. I mean, we've got to get 4 points more than Newcastle until the end of the season. And then we play them final day. That's the way I'm looking at it. It's the way I've been always looking at it. We need to be in with a chance final day when it's a winnable game, when hopefully the pressure's on both teams and we just see what can happen.
The odds have changed. The odds have changed. There was a deal earlier where Fulham had offered a deal to Bournemouth, which included Joe Bryan to go to AFC Bournemouth in a part exchange. That came from Alex Crook, whose tweets I've kind of been following all day. He seemed to be pretty much on the money. Well, I don't know, but you never know. But he's obviously he's got many followers, so you'd think that he'd be correct. So yeah, 5 to 6, which means apparently if you put, I don't even know, Jack Stradley's gonna have to come back to tell me how it works. You put £5 on, you get 6 back, maybe. No, that can't be right. Can't be right.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly. We've hit a bit of a wall in terms of what to talk about, but there still is plenty. West Ham, who lost against Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see what happens now.
Oh, did you say something? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you went there for me. Sorry.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it completely cut out for me.
Someone's just tagged me in a tweet. The Everton have beat Fulham to the signing of Bournemouth striker Josh King. King is close to finalising the move to Everton. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a losing battle to try and compete with someone who's in and around the top 6 to get a deal. Joe, you still there?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see what everyone's saying.
This is interesting, actually, Jack. I don't know if you've seen this. I'm just looking at some of the news about the Josh King deal, and Alex Crook from TalkSport has just said that one of the early offers from Fulham for King included defender Joe Bryan.
Didn't I say that like 5 minutes ago?
No way, really? When you cut out, I've never heard that in my life.
Oh, really? Did I cut out?
I've been shocked. I was shocked.
I said that about 3 or 4 minutes
interesting
ago.
That we seem to have moved away from that, because that doesn't sound like the deal that is currently on the table and
it sounded like a deal that we put in at first, and now it's saying that the deal that we have has a relegation release clause, which is interesting. But this is now down to the player, and Josh King would want to play in the top 6 rather than a relegation scrap, it seems. Although he was at Bournemouth last season, he might have a taste for it. You never know. Hugo, thanks for your comments in this the last 45 minutes. I'm a realist, but if you look at Leicester 14-15 Great Escape, our team is close overall. But it only takes 2 to 3 wins in a row. And let's hope that Oh, okay. That's a bit... Okay. If that's... in the Harry Potter context, that's extremely rude. But in normal context, it's not that deep. I quite like Graham Potter. I don't see anything wrong with him. I think he's a pretty nice guy. He hasn't really done anything that's made me think otherwise. But you're right. And this is what we were talking about on Saturday. One win gives that confidence to go on a run of 2 or 3 wins. But it's all about getting that first win. And I thought it would come on Saturday, but it just didn't. We're getting more odds updates from Darren Hughes. Everton now 8-13, Fulham 11-10. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing that means that Everton are favourites. To be honest, Fulham should aim at Newcastle besides the weekend. Look, Championship at best. Should aim at Newcastle beside the weekend. Yeah. Everton do. Newcastle don't look very good at football, but they did put in a good performance at the weekend against. Could be old news with Madger. Deal nearly done. Medical complete. Yeah. Josh Madger. If you've just joined, Josh Madger is the one that it looks like it's going to be.
Bit nervous about Bordeaux still. We've got a bit of history with them for last minute deals.
I think that Josh is in England. I think. Yeah. So we've been going for 45 minutes. We feel as though that the only deal that's going to happen in terms of incomings is going to be Josh Badger. Where would he play then? Where would he play? On the wing?
I don't think he'd start straight away. I think it's someone that would be sort of coming off the bench as an impact player. I don't think he would displace Mitrovic. So I feel that if he had a place, it would be as like a wide forward. I think that he'll have a part to play, but I don't think it'll be starting straight away.
No. Because right now, what we saw against Brighton was 10 minutes of Mitrovic, and it basically all made us think, get Mitrovic in the starting 11 against West Brom. And for the first 45 minutes, you could see exactly why. Charlie Austin has just scored for QPR against Watford to make it 1-1. Mitrovic was fantastic against West Brom in that first half. He held up the play. He brought Bobby Reid in for that chance, and he scored. But now, do we stick with Mitrovic up front, or go with Josh Madger up front, or even Caballero and go back to what we used to be playing? But Mitrovic is a goal scorer, and if you put him in and you get players around him, we will create opportunities. And we completely saw that against West Brom. Take away from the fact that West Brom aren't very good at defending, he will create chances because of that presence he's got. He can draw fouls, although referees love to give fouls against him when he's not doing anything wrong. He draws fouls because he pushes in and he tries to hold up the play. And then you get players in around him, Loftus-Cheek, Lookman, Cav, or whoever plays. And Bobby Reid, we will make chances. And I genuinely feel like against the likes of West Ham and West Brom, Leicester, no Fofana, get at Johnny Evans. And I suppose Soyuncu will play. I suppose he came on, didn't he? Soyuncu's a good player to me. I feel a little bit confident that we can get stuff, get some goals, because that's what we need, Joe. We need goals. We've only scored 17 all season.
Yeah, Mitrovic looked, in terms of the hold-up play and everything, almost back to his best in that first half against West Brom. The first goal was a great ball from Lookman, and then just beautiful play from Mitrovic to slide it through to Bobby Reid. And he created quite a few chances like that. Nearly scored from the corner right at the end, like a headed effort from the corner that was saved. And it was very strange the way that we switched off in the second half, because Mitrovic was on great form, and I feel like if we kept on playing like that, he'd have done the same thing again and again. It had led to more goals. Play like that against Leicester. Hopefully we can bully the defenders like we did against West Brom. Got to remember, West Brom are a big team, and Mitrovic dealt with them superbly in that first half. If you can do that against Leicester when it's not their first choice back line, despite it being much stronger than the one that we played against West Brom, I'll be very happy.
4-3-3, Areola, Tete, Anderson, Tosid, Robertson, Reid, Loftus-Cheek. Reid. Yeah, I think this is what you would go for. And then you'd have basically Reid. I suppose you wouldn't know because there's no Aina. So you're basically saying we should go 4-3-3. What I was going to say is that if we had Ola Aina in there, you could have Reid go into right wing back out of possession. That's it. 4-3-3 works. I'd maybe even try Josh Madger out on the wing instead of Bobby Reid. And if Ruben Loftus-Cheek is injured or isn't playing, then you put Reed in the hole in the 10 position. Yeah, I just want to win games of football, and I want to get out of this mess. I just want to close the gap and at least make this interesting, because what is interesting is that the last few weeks, Joe, we've been talking on SW6 Essential very positively about Fulham.
Yeah.
Whereas I reckon if this was the team of 18, 19 and we're in this position, we'd be extremely negative, and we'd be like, hit the player. I just wouldn't be buying into it at all, and be criticizing everyone. But there seems to be, and I think the only I wouldn't say poison, the only bad thing that's happening at the club right now isn't the players. I think the players are fine and they're doing well. I think the management staff are fantastic. It's the board. It's Tony Khan, and I'm not going to sit here and say Tony. I'd say that Tony Khan is at fault for why we didn't pick up points in the first 4 or 5 games, and perhaps maybe at fault for why we haven't picked up points. No. I think it's Parker's fault we haven't picked up points in January because of the performances, or at least the one against West Brom and Brighton. But if we'd have had that striker earlier on, remember when we had all the COVID outbreak and we had a 10-day gap, and I was thinking, let's bring in a striker now. Didn't happen. And maybe, you know, there's 2 sides to it, Joe.
Well, we threw away 4 games at the start of the season, and that's unacceptable. I mean, those 4 games could cost us 4 games worth of points that we could have got with this team that we've currently got now. I understand perfectly well that players like Anderson might not have been available, but you can't tell me that no one would have been available that would have improved us. I'm not saying that Tony out because he didn't get Anderson in before deadline day. I'm saying Tony out because he didn't get in a defender to replace Odoi, Hector, Ream, when we saw they weren't good enough, when we saw that we needed someone better.
There's been a push notification from Sky Sports. Everton and Fulham verbally agreed deals with Bournemouth to sign Josh King. That was 8 minutes ago. I haven't seen that tweet from Damasio. I'm not saying it's not true, but I just haven't seen anything of that yet. I'm trying not to dampen spirits. Like after Saturday, you could sit here and go, "That's it." I mean, a lot of people were sitting here and thinking, "That's it, we're down." There's still how many games? 19, 18 games to go. You know, we have to pick out a result from somewhere. We are approaching the hour mark. We might wrap up soon because I think we know. We know basically what's going to happen, and we basically know it's basically down to Josh King, and that's the only. I feel like not necessarily conversation drying up, but we've covered everything we need to cover, and maybe we'll spend the last few minutes going through some of the comments. Thanks very much. Yeah. We've probably kept it consistent, about 150 viewers plus for the whole hour.
That's brilliant.
Have to go up with a team and style of play to compete in the Premier League. We had a style of play in the Championship. It was just pretty slow and passive, but we ramped it up a little bit in the weeks after the start of the season, and we looked a better team. You know, if we'd have beaten Newcastle, if some buts this season, if we'd have scored that goal at West Ham, if we'd had not lost the game on Saturday. Drawn the game on Saturday. I mean, there's so many ifs and buts, Joe.
Yeah, the Lookman penalty. I mean, there's so many occasions where we played well and just little things went against us, or we made the wrong decision, or got a bit unlucky, such as the Liverpool game, the Newcastle game. It's frustrating. And the only way that it's not going to be frustrating is if we stay up, which is looking more and more unlikely. The problem with having a style of play that is good enough for the Premier League is that the way we've been playing well in the Premier League has been quite defensive football.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us really want to see that in the Championship. We want to see us take some of these teams to the sword if we were to go down. I don't think any of us would have been very happy with Parker if we were playing a really defensive style last year, for example.
Yeah, I think Parker did a really good job bringing us up. You know, no one really saw it coming. Kai Martin, if you can stop spamming that in the chat, please, that'd be great. Yeah, I even Andy Hinchcliffe on co-coms on the playoff final just said, I didn't see this coming, beating Brentford in the playoff final the way we played. And that gives me confidence that Parker is a good manager, and I'm always going to stick by him. Let's final question.
Yeah.
Down or not, Parker in or out? Because I've seen a few Parker out comments on this live stream. I am fully Parker in. If he could take us up once, he can do it again. I just think his mentality's right. He'll learn. He's learning on the job, like Lampard was for Chelsea. But I think he's just got it. He's a good person.
I'm Parker in as well. I think he's been stitched up a bit in terms of having to play 4 Premier League games with that defence. And I think that he could make a really good Premier League manager one day. I think he's doing a fine job with what he's got available to him. There's still the argument that we've got a better team than some of the teams that are above us, but I don't think we did for the first 4 games, is what I'd say to that. So I think on a level playing field over the course of the whole season, if we had this team, he'd have kept us up. And it might be too little too late, but I'd like to stick with Parker even if we do go down.
Yeah, I just think that, you see some clubs just chopping and changing their managers. You look at Sheffield Wednesday this season, West Brom have done it. They're just chop and change. And we are like that. I mean, we chopped and changed every time we were in the Premier League, 13, 14 and 18, 19. Just stick with someone who's doing a good job. I wouldn't say Parker's doing a bad job. He's galvanized the squad. And he's got us with an identity and a way of playing that we can all buy into. Yeah, Luca, I think you're right. I think Tony Khan has to step down as director of football at the end of the season or after this window, because I genuinely think that some of his mistakes have cost us. We can praise him for the signing of Mitrovic and Matt Targett, who basically got us into the Premier League. But then following that, it's been a bit of a disaster. And you can't praise him for the sign of Ivan Cavalier and Knockaert. That's just money wasted down the drain, because now look at Knockaert. He's at Nottingham Forest, who are near the bottom of the Championship. And Ivan Cavalier, yes, he scored a couple of goals this season, but overall his contributions to the club have not been worthy of that 15 million price tag. Joe, let's call it a day. It's been great fun. Any closing remarks or anything that's happened?
I don't think so. I think Twitter's been quite negative recently, and I understand why. So I just say keep the faith for a little bit longer. We'll see what happens tonight. It looks like it's just Josh Madger, but we've got half the season left. Looks like everything's against us, but it's not done. Small run here and we can suddenly be out of the mess. So I think we need to stick with them and see what happens, starting with Wednesday, which is got the makings of quite a good game. So hopefully we can get some sort of result on Wednesday against Leicester.
We will see you on Thursday for an SW6 Essential, where hopefully, we're going to discuss the game against Leicester, because we've already touched on this game against West Brom. Hopefully we can have a positive chat about a second win this season. Done the double over Leicester City. That one's on BT Sport at 6:00 on Wednesday evening. And then we we host West Ham on Saturday night at 5:30 tea time or dinner time, or however you say it. Thanks very much for watching. We've gone for almost an hour now. Your support has been fantastic. And up the Fulham. And if Josh King comes in, then Josh King comes in, and it will be happy days. But if he goes to Merseyside, then good luck to him. And we'll see you later. Everyone give Josh Madger a nice warm welcome. Come on, Fulham. We'll end the broadcast there.